Hey, baby, it is season 2, episode 11 of Heavy Theology.
It is, and we're back home again at Crow Coffee. Glad to be back home.
Yes, we are. Thank you to Trent and Jackie for allowing us to use your beautiful venue.
And if you get the chance to come and visit them, I recommend the sugar-free vanilla latte.
I'm all about the brown butter toffee chai, but yeah.
Yours sounds better than mine.
Well, they don't have the sugar-free in the brown butter toffee, so this is full sugar, and I'm okay with that. It is no regrets, no regrets.
Baby, you're sweet enough already.
Oh my goodness. Well, last week, guys, we talked about modern day miracles. And if you happen to miss that episode, I invite you to check it out. If you like what you hear or see there or on any of our episodes, please take the time to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes of Heavy Theology.
And today is kind of a Modern Miracles Take 2. We're going to go into depth on a specific miracle that kind of touched our hearts.
Absolutely. Today we're talking about the Cokeville miracle. And let me give you guys just a bit of a warning. Today's episode contains graphic details about school and gun violence and suicide and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
As we discussed in the last episode, we're not afraid of the difficult things and the difficult topics. We'll approach them. And let's be quite honest, gun violence and suicide, especially in Christian schools today, is a stark reality. The devil and the demonic have no limit to which they will go to try to torture and persecute God's children.
All right, and let me give you guys our disclaimer. What you're about to hear is an unscripted conversation between a pastor and his wife. We don't rehearse and we do not reshoot. We don't discuss material before filming and recording, and we do not know what the other is going to say. It's our hope and prayer to produce a quality conversation that we can share with you and that you'll enjoy listening to as much as we enjoy creating it for you.
It really is kind of fun creating it.
It really is. We
Absolutely.
have a good time.
Yeah.
We really
and we
do.
don't talk any other time than the podcast.
No, we only talk to each other during the podcast. All right, the Cokeville miracle. Are you ready to break this one down?
I absolutely am ready.
All right. Well, some say that what happened here is a series of impossible coincidences, and some say that it is a true miracle. I'd like to tell you the story, and then we'll dive into a discussion about why many believe this event to be a true modern-day miracle.
Excellent.
Okay. Are you ready for some research?
I'm ready for some research. Absolutely.
All right.
I know you've been working hard all day on this and all week, and
Yeah.
I'm ready to break it down for me, kid.
All right. Well, in the 1970s, a man named David Young served as town marshal in Cokeville, Wyoming. Now, Cokeville, Wyoming is about 150 miles from Salt Lake City, Utah, and pretty much that's the only thing that it's even remotely close to. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. David's term was only 6 months before he was let go for misconduct and overzealousness, and he had been having numerous affairs with women in the community. Now, David was considered to be a man of very high intelligence, and he had a really high IQ. And investigators described him as highly intelligent, but functionally insane. He eventually developed this over-the-top theory about reincarnation that would serve to fuel the flames that could have been a mass casualty disaster. His theory and subsequent 43-page manifesto were called Zero Equals Infinity. And it was a mathematical theory that provided the theological foundation for his decision to hold the Cokeville Elementary School hostage.
Theological decision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he was obsessed with the idea that the universe and everything in it could be reduced to a mathematical equation.
Do you realize that was Pythagoras? In the ancient Greek philosophy, the ancient Greek philosophers, the first 7 or 10, were trying to find out what is God? What is it that makes up everything? And Pythagoras, the Pythagorean theorem, thought it was math.
Well, there you go.
He thought math was God.
Well, there you go. So David, I don't want to say that he subscribed to that same belief, but I will tell you his equation because it's quite simple.
Sure.
David's equation was zero, or nothingness, and infinity were actually the same thing. So basically, if you could go far enough into the infinite, you could return to zero.
So nothing is the same thing of everything. It sounds like a genius philosophy.
So his goal at first was to mathematically disprove God. He argued that zero equals infinity, and if God was infinite, God must be zero, or God must be nothing. And by solving this mathematical equation, David believed that he had ascended to a higher plane of understanding than the rest of humanity, and that he was a superior man who had seen past the illusion and confines of religion. He had disproven God, and therefore he was God.
A man who lost his job for multiple extramarital affairs as a public official has a theological premise that he can mathematically explain about nothing equal everything, and he is a genius above and beyond the average human.
And he's God, don't forget.
Oh, and he's God.
He's God, yeah.
Gotcha.
So after proving that God was nothing, he began to believe that death wasn't the end. He believed that death was a mechanical transition to a new dimension.
Well, that's the first thing he's got right so far.
There you go. There you go. Well, he also believed in the Big Bang Theory.
Gotcha.
Okay. And he thought if he could recreate that, then he and whomever he were with at the time would be reincarnated into a new dimension where he would rule as supreme deity.
So the Big Bang Theory, let's review. The Big Bang Theory, we'll do a little Christian apologetics here, a little scientific apologetics. The Big Bang Theory teaches that something created itself out of nothing and banged into something that created everything that is concise and detailed. So in other words, there's nothingness, and all of a sudden something comes into existence that creates two other things that bang into each other and become the sun and the universe and the complex DNA strands of each human being. Or there's the Christian view that if there's a creation, logically there must be a creator.
Right.
Therefore, if there is a realm of time, there must be eternity. So an eternal being who is all sovereign created everything that is complex, like DNA strands of human beings in the entire universe. Or you can believe the Big Bang Theory that nothing created itself into something and banged them together and created the complexity of the universe. I don't have enough faith to be a Big Bang Theory person. There was a Big Bang Theory. God said. Boom!
Right. Okay. All right. So, well, David did believe in the Big Bang Theory, and he thought that he could recreate it. And so that's what he set out to do. Well, because he was of such high intelligence and he wanted only the best for his new dimension, he wanted pure beings with high intelligence to join him in his new dimension. He didn't just want a brave new world, he wanted an intelligent one. And this is how his plan developed.
So he wanted to create a master race of superior humans. That's not been tried in the past. Adolf Hitler.
Are you starting to understand why they thought he was functionally insane?
I'm starting to think, well, the zero plus nothing or zero equals infinity is a pretty good clue.
That's a pretty good indicator.
That was a good start.
All right. Well, David knew Cokeville, Wyoming inside and out because of his time as town marshal there. And he knew the capabilities and the weaknesses of the police. He also knew that Cokeville students consistently scored in the top percentiles on achievement tests. And in his manifesto, he referred to them as very, very bright children. So in his mind, these were the pure beings that he needed for his new dimension.
So he chose a divinely, intellectually talented community, which, by the way, he also identified as superiorly religious. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting. Yeah. Well, he spent years in isolation with his wife and daughter in Tucson, Arizona, obsessing over the numbers before he moved to Cokeville to execute his plan. Okay. So on May 16, 1986 at 1 p.m., he and his wife Doris arrive at Cokeville Elementary School with a massive homemade gasoline bomb on a modified shopping cart and an arsenal of firearms. All right, the bomb, when detonated, would have had the same destructive power of 25 sticks of dynamite and would easily destroy the entire wing of the building, killing everyone inside. It included thousands of small metal nuts and bolts that would act as shrapnel, that would disperse through the room like high velocity rounds, annihilating everyone in their path. Well, together, David and Doris gathered 136 children and 18 adults into a single 30-foot by 30-foot classroom. And David tied a string to his wrist that was connected to the bomb's detonator, and then he made his demands.
So the gym we train at, Quintech, here in Yuma, is a old school that they've converted into a gym.
Mm-hmm.
And so the gym that I train has 2 different rooms, and they're about 30 by 30, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
And you get in there with some high school boys, and even if it's 5 or 6 high school boys, it's stinky.
It starts to close in on you. It does. It
Thinking
starts to
that
close
136 little kids,
it would start to
that would
close
be an
in.
unpleasant environment. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was prepared to hold the children hostage for 10 days if he needed, until Congress could meet his demands. And guess what he wanted?
Well, I know what he wanted.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, he wanted $2
$2 million per person.
Per child.
Yeah,
$2 million per child.
child.
Because the adults didn't mean anything to him.
Yeah.
They meant nothing to him. It was the children that were the pure beings. So he wanted $2 million per child.
Yeah.
So it was almost $300 million. And he wanted Ronald Reagan's attention as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does it make sense that if he were going to kill these children, that he would need the ransom money?
Well, not offhand, no.
Okay. Well, it does if you're David Young, supreme deity of the brave new world, because he didn't believe in the old adage that you can't take it with you when you go. He had every intention of taking it with him when he went, because he was going to use it as financial energy when he went to the brave new world.
So let me ask you something. If you're the supreme being of a brave new world, and you're the only survivors, you and your followers, what do you need money for?
Well, I think that's where the term functionally insane comes in.
Or just stupid.
No, he had a really high IQ. No, he was off the charts. So
it remains to be seen.
Yeah. So as the afternoon wore on, the room began filling with the odor of gasoline, and some of the kids began getting sick from them. Okay. So the teachers tried to keep them calm by encouraging them to sing and to pray together. And one of the teachers was able to convince David to let him open one of the windows to let the fumes out, because it was really starting to get stifling in there. It was really hot. And David begrudgingly agreed, you know.
Assumedly, the kids are vomiting.
Yeah.
And you're in a 30 by 30 room with stinky kids to begin with, and vomit probably didn't make it any more pleasurable to be in.
Right. And it was really warm in there. That's a lot of bodies to be in that little of a room.
Truly is.
Yeah.
And he had a death switch. So if anybody took him out.
Right. That was the whole point of why he had it tied to his wrist, because if they were to take him out, you know, and he were to fall, then it would detonate.
Yep.
Yeah.
So at least he was thinking there.
So he was thinking there. So as agitated kids do, some began to get restless, and the teachers started noticing that they were really starting to irritate David. And they knew that David was volatile at this point, and you don't want to irritate a volatile man or a volatile human being. You just don't want to do that. Well, they didn't want him to get fidgety, so one of the teachers created what they called a magic square with masking tape. And so they made a square with the masking tape all around David, and they told the kids that this is a magic square that only Mr. Young was allowed to be in, so that none of the kids would get too close to him and bump him or cause him to, you know, really lash out, or you know, they just wouldn't grate on his nerves like that. So about 3:45 p.m., we're about 2 hours, 45 minutes into this. The heat of the room, the kids, and everything else was quickly becoming too much for David. So he calls his wife to come over to him, and he attached the dead man switch to her wrist and told her, you know, you can't even scratch your nose or the bomb's going to detonate. And he went to the bathroom, leaving her alone with the children and the teachers. Well, it's not too long before Doris starts to become overwhelmed. In the room, like I said, it was scorching hot. The gas fumes, you got the noise of the kids, they're starting to get to her. Plus, she's attached to this massive bomb that if she moves the wrong way, it's going to explode and kill her and everybody else with her. So witnesses suggest that she was maybe trying to reposition herself. Some say that maybe she was just trying to keep the children back, but whatever happened, she started to visibly struggle. Some say she reached up to touch her head. Some say that she just kind of jerked. Whatever happened, she made a very sudden, sharp movement. And this movement on the string detonated the bomb. Yeah. So the bomb was built with 5 blasting caps and a gallon of gasoline and several containers of a mixture of gunpowder, flour, and aluminum powder. David's goal was that the detonators would cause the containers to rupture, and that would disperse the flour powder mixture into the air, creating a massive surface area for the fire to catch. And had it worked properly, there would have been a huge pressure wave that sucked the oxygen out of the room while simultaneously turning the room into this massive fireball. But that didn't happen. And I'll explain the miracle behind that in a minute.
Absolutely.
So here's the rough part. So viewer and listener discretion is advised from here forward. When the bomb detonated, the force of the blast went upward instead of outward, and Doris was instantly engulfed in flames. And she began running frantically around the room, trying to extinguish herself. Well, David comes out of the bathroom to find the room entrenched in this thick black smoke, and he sees his wife on fire. And so he very quickly shot her. And then he also, seeing the chaos in the room, he shot one of the teachers in the back, striking his shoulder before returning to the bathroom and taking his own life. So from the time of the blast until the building was completely clear of all 154 survivors, it was estimated to be between 2 and 5 minutes. Not a single child died, not a single teacher, and the teacher who was shot in the back returned to school 3 days later.
Amazing.
Yeah. So now for the miracles. Okay. All right.
Not to make light of a bad situation, but if you ever get caught on fire by a bomb exploding in the air, stop, drop, and roll.
Yeah. You know what, though? I know that we were taught that so much in school, but I just don't know how aware
you would be
when you're in that searing pain. I don't know how aware you would be to do something like that. I just think that you would be so panicked.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah. Okay, so now for the miracles, and I'm hoping I can get through this without bawling my eyes out. So Shane, you may have to do some tremendous editing for me on this one because it was really hard to research.
I'm sure.
So about a week or two before the explosion, the school's fire alarm began malfunctioning. Now, when this happens outside of a drill, teachers and school officials have no choice but to treat the alarm as a true emergency because they don't know that it's not. And the fire department has to treat it as a true emergency as well because they don't know that it's not. So every day for at least a week before the explosion, the teachers and the students all practiced evacuating the building quickly. And the fire department came out to the school in full firefighting gear every day for a week or maybe 2 weeks. The children had even practiced evacuating the building during an assembly when they were all together in the same room. And they had practiced getting low to be beneath smoke should there be a true fire emergency. And get this, the alarm went off on May 16, 1986 before the explosion. So the fire department was already on their way to the school.
Wow.
Yeah. This made it possible to treat smoke inhalation victims almost instantly. So just with that one fact, what do you think about that? Is that just a crazy coincidence or is that miraculous?
What's miraculous? I mean, the alarm was going off for no reason for weeks in advance, right? Or
Right.
months in advance. I can't remember, weeks or months.
It was weeks.
But yeah, and it helped the kids to practice and know immediately or instinctively or be conditioned to how to behave and get out of the building quickly and safely.
Right. Because you got to think that was a different time. We didn't have the means of being able to, children couldn't just text mom and dad and say, we have an emergency, please call somebody. Yeah. We didn't have that technology back then. So it wasn't like someone could have called out and so yeah.
Absolutely miraculous.
Yeah.
But there's more, I know.
Oh, there's so much more.
Sure.
There's so much more. All right. The next is the bomb. The bomb had 5 blasting caps, which were really kind of overkill because if only 2 of them had worked properly, it would have been enough to destroy the school and kill everybody in it. But on this day, 4 of the 5 blasting caps failed. Now, blasting caps have a reliability rating that exceeds 99.9%. They have a failure rate of about 1 in 10,000. So the fact that 4 of the 5 were defective is statistically impossible. In fact, the one cap that did detonate should have been enough to trigger what's called a sympathetic detonation or a shock wave that triggers the others. But it didn't. Remember the gas odor I told you about earlier? Well, that's because the gasoline container was leaking. The fluid dripped down onto and soaked the primary wiring of the bomb, and that could have been why the blasting caps didn't detonate as expected. Remember the powder in the containers that was supposed to ignite the air? Well, the gasoline droplets also turned the powder in the containers to sludge, so it wasn't able to become that explosive dust cloud that David had envisioned.
Because gasoline of itself, the liquid isn't what burns, it's the fumes.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Remember the shrapnel that should have dispersed like bullets around the room at the children's chest height? Well, most of those went straight up instead of out. So the children standing just a few feet away from the bomb were completely missed. In fact, the only projectile that caused any harm to any hostage that day was the bullet that struck the teacher in the shoulder. And now for the evacuation. All right. Remember how I mentioned the teachers opened the windows because of the gas smell? Well, this saved precious time when the bomb went off because many children were shoved or jumped out through the open windows. David had instructed the teachers to block the doorway with desks and chairs. And investigators after the blast said that there was no way that students and teachers could have gotten out of the building as quickly as they did. Yet they did. You want to know how?
Sure.
And that brings me to the fourth miracle, the people in white, or as the children referred to them, the shining people. Some of the children say that they were able to get over the desks and the chairs because people in white, or shining people, picked them up and lifted them over.
People not being overtaken by the smoke in the upper.
Yeah.
Which is miraculous in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Remember the children who made it out the window? Well, many of them claim that just moments before the blast, they saw people in white, or shining people, who told them to go stand by the window and face away from the bomb. So you know how I said that most of the shrapnel went up instead of out? Well, most is not all. And many of the children say that they saw shining people standing between them and the bomb, and that these people blocked the debris or held their hands over the children's heads. In fact, dozens of children interviewed independently by investigators and psychologists saw these people in white, or what they refer to as shining people, and they all described them the same way. You want to hear how they're described?
Sure.
Okay. They didn't have wings or harps, and they weren't these beautiful beings that we see on TV, which is interesting in itself because at this time, that's how they were portrayed on TV. And that seems logical that that's how a child would describe an angel. Instead, they were calm people dressed in white who made the children feel peaceful.
And remember, there's different levels of angels. There's seraphim and cherubim. There's seraphim and cherubim, and there's archangels. And so the seraphim surround God's throne and guard it. The cherubim would be the ones playing the harp, so to speak, but they cry out, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty." Ezekiel saw them crying out. Isaiah saw them crying out. John saw them crying out. And so the angels that would come down and protect the children wouldn't be angels with harps. They wouldn't be the cherubim.
Sure.
They would be the archangels,
Sure.
the protector angels.
Sure.
So biblically, that makes sense.
Yeah. All right. They didn't just stand around. They gave very specific instructions. They told the children to move to the windows. They told them where to sit on the floor. They told them to stay away from the center of the room.
As if someone told them where the shrapnel was going to land and where to go, as if he was omniscient and knew everything.
Yeah. And I guarantee it was not David yet.
It was not David yet.
No. Now, here's a part that I think you may have an issue with. Okay. So many of the children didn't see generic angels. They claimed that they saw family members, or at least their parents claimed that the children saw family members. Months after the explosion, parents began reporting that their children could point to old family photos and say things like, "That's her, that's the lady who was with me in the room." And in some cases, the kiddos identified deceased grandparents or great aunts who they'd never met and whose photos they'd never seen. What do you make of that?
So the idea that an ancestor or somebody dies and becomes an angel is a teaching of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. And this was a highly Latter-day Saint community, but not all the children in there were Latter-day Saints. And so it was the Latter-day Saints parents that were attributing the angels to dead relatives. Now that doesn't come anywhere in Scripture.
Sure.
Angels are created way back, possibly before humans, probably before humans. In the Old Testament, before the Second Temple, in the ancient Old Testament, they're referred to as sons of God because God made them. And that is in comparison to sons of men who were born because man and woman come together, or daughters of men, or so on and so forth. And so the idea that a person dies and becomes a guardian angel or an angel is a teaching of Joseph Smith from the golden tablets he received from the angels that he put in a hat and translated. So they're from the Book of Mormon. They're actually not from Holy Scripture. So I would say if they did appear as dead relatives, it was a way of appearing to the children in a way in which they would be calm. But most likely children aim to please, especially children who've been traumatized.
Sure.
And so for mom and dad to open the photo album and say, "Is that her?" enthusiastically,
Sure.
the children would aim to please and say, yeah, that's her, that's her. So it's one of the two. But either ways, people do not die and become angels.
Sure.
That doesn't happen.
Sure.
And the Latter-day Saints are, there's different levels of Latter-day Saints, and we would disagree with them on this particular angelology,
Sure,
and that's
sure.
okay. But I think that even if they did appear as dead relatives, it was because they were trying to either comfort the children or comfort the parents that God is real. Does that make sense? And so, because an angel can
Yes.
take on any form that he chooses. We know that an angel appears to Jonathan as the son of Saul in the Old Testament as a man, right? And Gabriel comes as a man to Mary, and so on and so forth. However, when Ezekiel, Elijah, and John see these angels in heaven, well, one has like the head of a lion. One, they have 6 wings, and they have covered by eyes.
Yeah.
And so angels don't really have a physical form because they're spiritual beings. So they can take on any form that they would like. And so I've heard various stories or tales of people who just swear that, my dad who's passed away, not my dad, but their dad who had passed away, lifted their head up and woke them up when they were driving home. And I think that an angel would appear to a person as in the form of a relative for comfort.
Sure.
Otherwise, it'd be terrifying.
It would be terrifying. Oh my word! I would wreck my car in a heartbeat.
I know, and most of the stories I've heard are people that fall asleep at the wheel.
Really?
And they're awakened by a relative that has passed.
Oh, really?
Well, if you're at the wheel, the angel doesn't want to appear to you as an angel with eyes everywhere and the head of a lion and the head of an ox, because that would cause you to. It would cause the very thing they're trying to prevent.
Yeah, that would be startling. Yeah.
So that's my take on that. And again, we disagree with the Latter-day Saints on angelology, but
sure, that's okay. That's okay. We're going to do an episode on angelology. At a future date. Yes.
And this movie that came out kind of depicted some of the Mormon beliefs. And so a lot of times the Church of Latter-day Saints is associated with this miracle, but it wasn't necessarily a Latter-day Saints miracle.
Sure.
They were just one of the sects of Christianity represented amongst the children. So.
One little girl even reported that a lady in white came to her and told her that a big bang was coming and that she needed to gather the younger children. Another said that when the bomb went off, an angel stood over them and shielded them with her body from the heat and the shrapnel. And some of the kids reported that 7 angels stood around the bomb just before it detonated.
So angels don't have a sex. They're spiritual beings. So they're asexual, so to speak. And so for an angel to appear as a woman, why would an angel appear as a woman to a child? Well, mother's the nurturer.
Yeah.
And most of your grade school teachers or principals are females, and so that would be comfort. So the children wouldn't be scared. It just goes on to prove my theory or the biblical account.
Yeah. So I know that you know this story. I know that you've seen the movie. I know that you've seen documentaries about this, and then along with my research today, what in your own research or PJ search or whatever you want to call it, what are your thoughts about the Cokeville miracle?
I think it's absolutely a miracle. I do. I think that God intervened on this particular school at this particular time for a purpose, and all of these children, and a majority of these children that we've seen in the documentaries grew up, and they have at least 3, if not 6 or 8 kids.
Oh, they've got beautiful.
So they
families.
all grew up to be families, and assumedly created families of faith.
Yeah. Oh, they got gorgeous families. They do.
And so I have a pretty redhead that shares with me that God wastes nothing.
He wastes nothing. I'm a firm believer in that.
Absolutely.
God wastes absolutely.
And I agree wholeheartedly. And so I think there was a purpose behind it, and I think it was absolutely, truly a miracle.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Do you have any other heavy theology for us, or is this one a standalone?
The angelology is all I had.
Yeah. Oh, that'll work for me.
You had some pretty impactful stuff, isn't it? So,
Well, thank you. You ready for a reality check?
yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, I'm a skeptic on a lot of things.
Mhm.
David obviously was not as bright as he or anyone else thought that he was. He wanted the container of gasoline to rupture easily, so that's why he chose that standard milk jug for the gasoline. So of course it was going to leak, because gas will break down those kinds of little
Plastics.
flimsy, little flimsy plastic containers. The blasting caps likely failed due to moisture, as did the powder. But I believe that these are all examples of God's grace. Even if that can be completely explained, I can't discount the fire alarm and the fact that so many children, and there were dozens of them. It wasn't just one or two; it was dozens of children. Uh, relay these tales of seeing these people in white, or these shining people.
And they shared these tales with a police investigator who was a skeptic,
Yeah,
who had no interest in proving that God actually existed, someone who was struggling with their faith.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at the end of the day, I believe it was a true miracle. But I do wonder why God made it happen. But I know that we're not supposed to question Him. But I agree. I believe He wastes absolutely nothing.
Why this school and why this time?
Right.
Because presumably this was well before Columbine or
Yes, it was.
Sandy Hook,
Yes, it
or
was.
some of the great atrocities.
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
And if
Wow.
nothing else, it has prepared other schools to be ready for innovation.
True.
Because it seems as if David and his wife just walked right in with
They sure did.
several firearms, and nobody stopped them.
Mhm.
They didn't have a plan in place. There were the police force were dispersed about the county, so that there was not a policeman
Sure.
anywhere near that could get there in a hurry at that particular time, which is probably a miracle in and of itself, because the policeman, being untrained or overly emotional in a remote area like that,
Oh,
might
they could have
burst
made
in
it so much worse.
and they could have caused
Oh,
it
my
to
word.
go there.
Yeah.
And if I remember right, the fire investigator that relayed his findings to the police investigator said that there were wires that were actually cut. They were cut with something.
Right.
And
Right.
who cut the wires?
You're right.
How did the wires get cut?
Right. Well, I know that there was some talk that perhaps Doris, as she was fidgeting, that maybe she, had a change of heart, and that she, had maybe cut the wires while David was in the bathroom, because, a lot of reports were that she was actually trying to help the children stay calm by, giving them things to color, or whatever. She was actually trying to, be a mother figure. And I know that sounds so disgusting and so horrific given what she was there to do, but she was actually trying to help the children, and that she really didn't want to do that. She didn't want to be there. I feel like she had all the earmarkings of an abused woman, but she, but some say that they thought that perhaps it was her who had cut the wires.
And unfortunately, or fortunately, or what have you, I have dealt with and encountered several severely abused women, and that doesn't fit the stereotype. Mm-hmm. All the abused woman wants to do is keep the peace, and to not provoke or irritate. So I don't think that a severely abused woman, which I believe that she truly was, mentally and possibly physically, definitely mentally abused, and beaten down, would take the risk of upsetting him by upsetting the apple cart. They want to keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace.
Right.
To the point where some women actually beat their children.
Oh my.
So that the husband doesn't beat them worse, and so that they don't upset the husband and she doesn't get beat. I mean, it's a really sick scenario.
It's terrible.
And so I don't think that fits the role of an abused woman to cut the wires. So yes, it is a theory. You are correct. But I don't think that was really what happened. I really don't. I think it was truly a miracle, a divine intervention.
Yeah.
Although, to be completely transparent, I have a motivation for proving that God exists.
I agree with that. Well, next week we're going to talk about deliverance ministries. I thought that would be a fun one for us to go through together and do a little research and PJ search on and see what we can come up with.
I'm excited about this. The deliverance ministers, the American deliverance ministers, are a majority of them, just like psychiatrists, just like doctors, just like CPAs. There's more bad ones than good ones. Okay. And so, as with faith healers, there's no such thing as a faith healer. James encourages us in the book of James to, when someone is sick, gather the elders, anoint them with oil, and pray. It's the prayers that go up to heaven and God who does the healing. So it is that God that does the deliverance. So for a person to go around and proclaim to be a deliverance minister and do it for money,
Yeah.
I really caution you, folks. I really caution you. Now, I could be considered a deliverance minister. I have been trained as an exorcist and so forth. But I take a little bit different approach. I take M. Scott Peck's approach, who is a Harvard-trained psychiatrist who actually performed exorcism. The exorcist isn't really doing anything. It's nothing magical about the exorcist. The exorcist is actually facilitating. The exorcist is praying. He's saying the right prayers. He's agitating the demonic until they decide to leave. More so, he is agitating the demonic until the person who is actually possessed lets go. Because if the person who is actually possessed is not willing to let the demon go or to expel the demon, the exorcist is absolutely powerless.
Well, you're also different in the regard that you don't charge.
I don't charge. That too.
You're not money
Yeah.
motivated.
It's not about the money, folks. It
Exactly.
truly is about helping folks. And so, yeah, we don't charge money.
All right. Well, that'll be next week for deliverance.
So I'm
Ministries.
excited to talk about
That'll
this
be
one.
exciting.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you to Trent and Jackie at Crow Coffee for letting us use your beautiful facility. Thank you to Shane at Hive and Pulpit for his excellent editing abilities. And we'll do it again next week.
We will. And in the meantime, if you're watching us on YouTube or Rumble or listening to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, or Apple Podcast, please like and follow or like and subscribe, whichever the platform allows. It helps get the algorithm up. It helps get our word out there to folks that are looking for the type of help that we offer.
Absolutely. All right. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.